I used to work the night shift at a medium-sized hotel in my town. My job was simple. Stand at the front desk, check people in or out, and wait. Most nights were quiet. Barely anyone came through the lobby. I'd mostly just stand there, staring at the doors, while scrolling through my phone to pass the time. Sure, I'd get the occasional angry guest or a weird late-night wanderer, but one night still gives me chills. It was stormy, wind howling, rain slamming against the windows. Nights like that usually meant no guests coming or going. I was leaning on the desk, half distracted by my phone, when I noticed a man approaching the entrance. He walked through the first set of glass doors and stopped. There's a small entry space between two doors leading into the lobby. He just stood there staring inside, his eyes locked with mine for a moment. Then, without a word, he patted down his pockets awkwardly, turned around, and walked back out into the storm. Weird, but I'd worked there long enough not to question strange behavior. Maybe he forgot something in his car. I figured he already had a room. He didn't have any bags with him. But again, nothing unusual. A few minutes passed. Then, the front desk phone rang. The caller ID said it was an external number. I answered with the usual greeting. A calm male voice replied. He said he'd parked in the front lot and needed help bringing in his luggage. I explained I couldn't leave the front unattended, but if he pulled up to the door, I'd help him right away. He paused, then politely agreed and hung up. A little annoyed, I stepped around the desk and stood in the entryway, waiting. 5 minutes passed. Nothing. I opened the door and stuck my head outside. It was still pouring, but I could just make out the man again, standing across the parking lot, waving at me, motioning for me to come over. I got this horrible gut feeling. If he really needed help, why wouldn't he pull up to the front, out of the rain? Why would anyone want to drag their suitcase through a storm? I ignored him, shut the door, and went back to the desk. If he really needed help, he'd come to me properly. But almost immediately, he did. He rushed through both sets of doors. So fast he must have sprinted. His clothes were soaked and he was breathing hard. He stepped right up to the desk and, without skipping a beat, asked the exact same thing he did on the phone. Could I help him with his suitcase? Again, I told him to pull his car up to the front. This time, he said he already took the suitcase out and didn't want to get it wet again. That didn't make sense. His whole story was falling apart. I asked if he had a reservation, telling him I couldn't help unless he was checked in. Suddenly, he got angry, really angry. His tone shifted and he started demanding I help him first. I stood my ground and told him, "And if your bags are in the rain, that's your choice. If you're not checking in, I need you to leave." He glared at me, flipped me off, and stormed out. He never came back, never checked in. I told the morning crew what happened, and that was it. No one saw him again. That's when it hit me. He wasn't a guest. He was never a guest. Just some random man trying to lure me outside into the pouring rain in the dead of night. I don't take road trips often. I usually fly. But a last-minute funeral forced me to drive about 10 hours to a relative's house. I packed for a week and hit the road around 10 a.m., planning to make it there in a day. A few hours in, storm clouds rolled in, and soon I was driving through heavy rain and thunder. The road stretched through fields and forests, with long, isolated valleys where the rain pooled on the pavement. Some spots were so flooded, I couldn't risk driving through them. Eventually, I had to turn back and take detours. After 8 hours, I was still 5 hours away and exhausted. The storm wasn't letting up. The focus needed to drive safely, and that kind of weather had worn me out. I needed to rest. Eventually, I found a small town, if you could even call it that. Maybe 20 buildings, some scattered farmhouses miles apart. No motels, nothing. The best place I could find was a grocery store parking lot. It was empty. Dim streetlights lit parts of it, but most of the town seemed asleep. I parked in a far corner, locked my doors, scanned the area, and leaned back in my seat. I know, bad idea. But it felt safer than stopping on a highway shoulder. The rain pounded my windshield as I slowly drifted off. Sometime later, I woke up. The storm had intensified. Louder thunder, brighter lightning. And then I saw it, a figure. Someone was walking across the lot, toward my car. I stayed still, watching. Maybe they were just passing by. But no, he was headed straight for me. As he got closer, I realized it was a man, completely soaked, not even trying to cover himself. No umbrella, no hood, just walking. He reached my back door and placed both hands flat against it. Then, he started pushing. Not trying to open the door, not knocking, just pushing, like he was trying to move my entire car. I sat frozen, heart pounding. Why? Why would someone do that? I didn't wait to find out. I started the engine, slammed it into reverse, and sped out of that lot without looking back. The man didn't chase me. He didn't even move. Just stood there in the pouring rain, staring. I drove for hours that night before I felt safe enough to stop again. To this day, I have no idea what he wanted, or what he was planning to do if I hadn't woken up. But I'm glad I did.